The silk sheets felt wrong against her skin. Too soft, too expensive, too unfamiliar. Nia's eyes snapped open, and the first thing she registered was pain. Her head throbbed like someone had used it as a drum, and her mouth tasted like regret mixed with something bitter she couldn't name. The second thing she noticed was the ceiling above her, impossibly high and painted in soft cream, with a crystal chandelier catching the morning light. This wasn't her tiny shared apartment in Gangnam. This wasn't anywhere she recognized. Her heart began to race as she pushed herself up on her elbows. And that's when the sheets slipped down, revealing bare shoulders. Her bare shoulders. Panic seized her chest like a fist squeezing her lungs. She looked down at herself and realized with growing horror that she was wearing nothing but a man's oversized white shirt, the fabric swallowing her small frame. "No, no, no, no," she whispered, her Ghanaian accent thick with fear. Then she heard it. Breathing. Deep, steady, too close. Nia turned her head slowly, as if moving too fast might shatter whatever fragile reality she was clinging to, and her world stopped. A man lay beside her, his back turned toward her, the morning sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and painting his skin in golden hues. His bare back was a canvas of ink, an intricate tattoo of a dragon coiling up his spine, its mouth open in a silent roar between his shoulder blades. The muscles beneath the ink shifted slightly with each breath, and Nia's mind went completely blank. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't remember. "God," she breathed out, her voice cracking. "God, did we sleep together?" The man stirred, and Nia's entire body went rigid. She watched in frozen terror as he rolled over, slow and deliberate, like a predator who knew his prey had nowhere to run. When his eyes opened, they were dark as midnight and just as dangerous. His face was sharp angles and cold beauty, the kind that belonged on billboards or in nightmares, depending on who was looking. Joon-Ha. She didn't know his name yet, but she would never forget his face. "You're loud," he said, his voice rough with sleep and something darker. "For someone who begged me not to leave last night." Nia's mouth fell open. What? I didn't... What are you talking about?" He sat up in one fluid motion, the sheets pooling around his waist, revealing more of that tattooed torso. He didn't look concerned or surprised. He looked amused, like this was some kind of game and she was losing badly. "You don't remember?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. There was a scar cutting through his left eyebrow, barely visible, but somehow making him look more dangerous. "Remember what?" Nia scrambled backward on the bed, clutching the sheets to her chest. "Who are you? Where am I? What happened last night?" He watched her panic with those unreadable dark eyes, then reached for something on the nightstand, a glass of water. He took a slow sip, making her wait, making her squirm. When he finally set it down, he looked at her again, and this time there was something calculating in his gaze. "Check your wrist," he said simply. "My what?" But even as she asked, her eyes dropped to her left wrist, and her blood turned to ice. There, just below her palm, was a mark. Not a bruise or a scratch, but a deep, fresh stamp that looked like an inked symbol. A circular emblem with Korean characters she couldn't read, surrounding what looked like a crane or phoenix. It was fading slightly, the skin around it irritated. "No," she whispered, touching it with trembling fingers. "No, no, no. What is this? What did you do to me?" "I didn't do anything you didn't ask for," Joon-Ha said, swinging his legs out of bed. He stood, wearing only black silk pajama pants that hung low on his hips, and walked to the window like he owned the world. Maybe he did. "You made a deal last night, Nia Carter. 7 days under my protection. That ink stamp is proof of your agreement." Hearing her full name from his lips sent a new wave of fear crashing through her. "How do you know my name? I don't know you. I don't know anything about last night." He turned from the window, the Seoul skyline stretching behind him like a postcard of a dream or a nightmare. You will. Pieces will come back. They always do. He moved toward a chair where clothes were folded neatly, expensive-looking black garments that probably cost more than her entire semester's tuition. But right now, what you need to know is simple. You're not leaving this penthouse for 7 days. You're under my protection, whether you remember agreeing to it or not. Protection from what? Naya's voice rose, hysteria creeping in at the edges. I'm an exchange student. I don't need protection. I need to get back to my apartment. I need to call Yuri. I need to... I already handled your university, he interrupted, cutting her off. I arranged for an emergency leave. Your professors believe you had a sudden family crisis back home. No one is looking for you yet. The danger in his eyes lessened slightly. Yuri, on the other hand, your roommate, the one who took you to Club Azure last night. The name hit her like a slap. Club Azure. Suddenly, fragments began to swim up from the murky waters of her memory. Neon lights, bass pounding so hard it vibrated in her chest. Yuri's face, bright with encouragement. Just one night, Nia. Just forget everything. I was at a club, Nia said slowly, trying to piece it together. With Yuri. I was upset because... The memory sharpened, cutting her. Because I lost my internship. Someone sabotaged my project presentation, and the company chose another student. I was so angry, so humiliated. So you went out to forget, Joon-Ha finished for her, pulling on a black shirt with practiced efficiency. Except forgetting is dangerous in Seoul, especially in the places Yuri took you. Club Azure isn't for students. Or, it's for people who can afford to disappear. What does that mean? He buttoned his shirt slowly, each movement precise and controlled. It means someone spiked your drink last night. Someone who wanted you vulnerable, confused, easy to take. And they almost succeeded. The room seemed to tilt. Naya pressed her palm against the mattress to steady herself. Someone drugged me? Yes. And you? She looked at him, really looked at him, trying to see past the cold exterior to whatever truth lay beneath. You saved me? For the first time, something flickered across his face, something almost human. I stopped them from taking you. Whether that counts as saving you depends on your perspective. My perspective? What's your perspective? He finished with his shirt and moved to stand at the foot of the bed, looking down at her with those impossibly dark eyes. My perspective is that you walked into the wrong club, caught the attention of the wrong people, and now you're tangled in something you don't understand. My perspective is that the symbol on your wrist connects you to me, and everyone who sees it will know you're under the protection of the Hanseong Group. The what? You really don't know anything, he said, and she couldn't tell if he sounded relieved or disappointed. Before Nia could respond, the door to the bedroom opened without warning. A man in a black suit stepped in, his face expressionless, and spoke to Joon-Ha in rapid Korean. Joon-Ha answered in the same language, his tone sharp and dismissive. The man bowed slightly and left, closing the door with a soft click that somehow sounded final. Get dressed, Joon-Ha said, gesturing to a set of clothes laid out on a chair near the bathroom. You have 20 minutes. Breakfast is at 8, and you'll be joining me. Joining you where? Everywhere. He moved toward the door, then paused, looking back at her over his shoulder. And Nia? Don't try to leave. The guards outside won't stop you gently. Then he was gone, and she was alone in a stranger's bedroom, wearing a stranger's shirt, with a temporary mark on her wrist that bound her to a man whose name she'd only just learned. 23 minutes later, because she refused to obey his timeline exactly, Nia emerged from the bedroom wearing the clothes he'd provided. Black jeans that fit perfectly, a soft cream sweater that probably cost more than her plane ticket to Korea, and boots she would have admired in any other circumstance. She felt like she was playing dress-up in someone else's life. The penthouse was even more stunning in daylight. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Seoul stretching out in every direction, the Han River winding through the city like a silver ribbon. The interior was all clean lines and minimalist luxury, black and white and chrome, with occasional splashes of deep blue. Art hung on the walls, pieces she suspected were originals, but couldn't name. She found him in what could only be called a dining room, though it looked more like something from a design magazine. He sat at the head of a long black table, reading something on a tablet, a cup of black coffee steaming beside him. He didn't look up when she entered. "Sit," he said. "I'm not a dog." That made him look up, and for a brief moment, something like amusement crossed his face. "No, dogs are more obedient." He gestured to the seat beside him, not at the far end of the table. "Sit, please. The food is getting cold." She sat, mostly because her legs felt shaky and the smell of food made her realize she was starving. The table was laid with an impressive spread, Korean dishes she recognized and some she didn't. Rice, soup, grilled fish, side dishes in small ceramic bowls. It looked like something from a drama, perfect and untouchable. "Eat," Joon-Ha said, picking up his chopsticks. "You'll need your strength." "For what?" "For surviving the next 7 days." Naya picked up her own chopsticks, her hands steadier than she expected. "You keep saying 7 days like it means something. What happens after 7 days?" "After 7 days, the mark fades. The protection ends. You go back to your life, and I go back to mine." He said it matter-of-factly, like he was describing the weather. "And if I want to leave now?" "You can't. You can't keep me prisoner." He set down his chopsticks carefully, deliberately, and turned to face her fully. "I'm not keeping you prisoner, Naya. I'm keeping you alive. The men who targeted you last night work for people who don't forget. They saw you at Club Azure, they marked you as vulnerable, and they would have taken you if I hadn't intervened. The only reason you're safe now is because everyone in Seoul's underworld knows what that symbol on your wrist means. Which is? That you belong to me." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and loaded with implications she didn't want to examine. "I don't belong to anyone. For 7 days you do." He picked up his chopsticks again, resuming his meal like he hadn't just turned her world upside down. "Finish your breakfast. We have somewhere to be at 10. She wanted to argue, wanted to scream, wanted to run, but her body betrayed her, hunger winning over pride, and she began to eat. The food was delicious, each bite perfectly prepared, and she hated that she was enjoying it. They ate in silence for several minutes before Joon-Ha spoke again, his voice quieter this time. "You asked if we slept together." Nia's chopsticks froze halfway to her mouth. Her heart began to race again, that panicky feeling rising in her chest. "Did we?" "No." The relief that flooded through her was so intense it almost hurt. She set down her chopsticks, her hands trembling slightly. "Then why did you let me think—" "I didn't let you think anything. You assumed." He looked at her with those dark, unreadable eyes. "When I found you last night, you were barely conscious. Someone had given you something strong, something meant to make you compliant. I brought you here because it was the only safe place I could take you. You were sick, confused, scared. I stayed because you asked me to." "I asked you?" "You grabbed my hand when I tried to leave. You said, 'Please don't go. I don't want to be alone.'" His voice was neutral, but something in his expression shifted, became almost vulnerable. "So I stayed. In the chair." He nodded toward a leather chair by the window. "All night!" Naya felt her throat tighten with unexpected emotion. "Why would you do that for a stranger?" "Because I know what it's like," he said quietly, "to wake up alone and afraid." Before she could process that, before she could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor changed. The almost human moment vanished, replaced by cold calculation. He stood abruptly. "We need to leave. Now." "What? Why?" "Because my uncle just arrived downstairs, and if he finds you here without preparation, 7 days won't be enough to protect you." An hour later, Naya found herself in the back of a black Mercedes, watching Seoul flash by through tinted windows. Joon-Ha sat beside her, his phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Korean that sounded more like commands than conversation. She caught a few words she'd learned. Wihyum, danger. Jigum, now. Junbi, prepare. But not enough to understand. They pulled up to a building that looked like a high-end office complex, all glass and steel reaching toward the sky. But when they entered through a private garage, descended in a private elevator, and emerged into what looked like a luxury boardroom, Nia realized this was no ordinary business. The room was full of men in expensive suits, all of them turning to look when Joon-Ha entered. The air felt heavy with power and danger, like standing in the eye of a storm. Joon-Ha's hand found the small of her back, a gesture that looked protective, but felt possessive. "Gentlemen," he said in English, his voice carrying easily across the room. "I'd like to introduce someone. This is Nia, my girlfriend." The word landed like a bomb. Nia's head whipped toward him, shock and anger warring in her chest, but his hand pressed slightly harder against her back. A warning. Play along. One of the men, older with gray temples and a smile that didn't reach his eyes, stepped forward. "Joon-Ha, you didn't mention you were seeing anyone. And a foreigner, no less. How unexpected." "Life is full of surprises, Mr. Park," Joon-Ha replied smoothly. "Nia just arrived from Ghana. We met last month during her exchange program." Lies. All lies. But delivered with such confidence that even Nia almost believed them. The meeting that followed was a blur of Korean and English, discussions of territories and shipments and money that made Nia's head spin. She sat beside Joon-Ha, silent and observant, trying to understand the dangerous world she'd stumbled into. These weren't businessmen, they were criminals. And Joon-Ha wasn't just part of it, he was clearly near the top of whatever hierarchy existed. When it was finally over, when the last man had bowed and left, Nia turned to Joon-Ha with fire in her eyes. "Your girlfriend?" she hissed. "You couldn't have warned me?" "If I'd warned you, you wouldn't have looked surprised enough to be convincing." He loosened his tie, suddenly looking tired. "In my world, showing weakness is dangerous. The only way to protect you was to make them think you matter to me." "Do I?" The question came out before she could stop it, raw and honest. Joon-Ha looked at her for a long moment, something unreadable in his dark eyes. "You're under my protection," he said finally. "That makes you important." It wasn't an answer, but it was all she was going to get. That night, back at the penthouse, Nia stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city lights twinkle like stars brought down to earth. Seoul was beautiful from up here, safe and distant. Down there, in those streets, danger waited. Up here, she was trapped in luxury with a man who was both her captor and her protector. "You're thinking too loud." She turned to find Joon-Ha standing in the doorway, changed from his suit into simple black clothes. He looked different like this, almost normal. Almost. "How can thinking be loud?" she asked. "I can see it on your face. You're trying to figure out how to escape." He moved to stand beside her at the window, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. "Don't. It won't end well." "So I'm just supposed to accept this? Accept being called your girlfriend in front of dangerous men? Accept this mark on my wrist? Accept that my life isn't my own for 7 days?" "Yes." His bluntness sparked anger in her chest. "You're arrogant." "I'm realistic." He turned to look at her, and in the reflection of the window, their eyes met. "You want to know why I really brought you here? Why I didn't just drop you at a hospital or call the police?" "Yes." "Because the man who drugged you works for my uncle, Mr. Han, and my uncle doesn't do anything without reason. He wanted you vulnerable, wanted you compromised, and I don't know why yet. But until I figure it out, you're safer here than anywhere else in Seoul." The revelation hit her like cold water. "Your own uncle tried to hurt me?" "My uncle would burn down an orphanage if it served his purposes." Joon-Ha's voice was flat, emotionless, but she caught something underneath. Pain. Old and buried deep. He runs the Hanseong Group. I'm just the heir he's grooming to take over. Everything I do, everyone I meet, it's all part of his chess game. Including me? Especially you. Nia wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the warmth of the room. Why me? I'm nobody. Just a student trying to finish her degree and go home. That's what I need to find out. He was quiet for a moment, then added softly, but I won't let him use you. Whatever his plan is, it ends with you walking away from this untouched. Can you promise that? He turned to face her fully, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. I don't make promises I can't keep, but I will try. It wasn't enough. But somehow it felt honest, and that mattered more than empty assurances. The next 3 days blurred together in a strange routine. Mornings with breakfast and stilted conversation. Afternoons where Joon-Ha disappeared into his home office for hours, leaving her to explore the penthouse like a bird in a gilded cage. Evenings where he would emerge, looking exhausted, and they would eat dinner in companionable silence. She noticed small things about him. The way he took his coffee black and bitter, like he was punishing himself. The scar on his left hand that he touched absently when he was thinking. The stray cat that appeared on his balcony every evening, and how he always left out food, despite pretending not to care. The nightmares that made him pace the living room at 3 in the morning, thinking she was asleep. On the third night, she found him on the balcony in the rain, his shirt soaked through, staring at the city like it held answers he couldn't find. You'll catch a cold, she said, stepping out with a towel. He didn't turn around. Go back inside, Nia. Not until you do. I'm not one of your projects. You can't fix me. I'm not trying to fix you. I'm just trying to understand you. She moved closer, holding out the towel. Why did you really save me that night? He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Rain pattered against the glass railing, the city lights blurring through the drops. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Because 5 years ago, I didn't save someone when I should have. Her name was Minji. She was kind, gentle, everything I wasn't. She thought she could love the darkness out of me. He laughed, but it was a broken sound. She was wrong. The more she loved me, the more danger she was in. My uncle used her to control me, to test my loyalty. When I finally chose to protect her, when I finally tried to get her out, it was too late. She died in a car accident that wasn't an accident. Nia's heart clenched. Joon-Ha, they call it a curse. Every woman who gets close to me ends up dead. It's not superstition. It's fact. My uncle makes sure of it. He can't control me if I have something to lose, so he takes it away. He finally turned to look at her, and his eyes were raw with pain. So when I saw you at that club, drugged and vulnerable, I saw her. I saw another person about to be destroyed because of me, and I couldn't. I couldn't let it happen again. She reached up and touched his face, her hand small against his cheek. I'm not Minji, and I'm not helpless. You're stubborn, he said, a ghost of a smile crossing his lips. I'm Ghanaian. We don't break easily. He took the towel from her hands, but instead of drying himself, he draped it around her shoulders. You're shivering. So are you. They stood there in the rain, close enough to feel each other's breath, far enough to maintain the fragile space between captor and captive, protector and protected. Then Joon-Ha did something unexpected. He reached out and tucked a wet strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her skin. 6 more days, he whispered. Just survive 6 more days, and you can forget all of this. Forget me. What if I don't want to forget? The question hung between them, dangerous and electric. His hand dropped away like she'd burned him. You should, he said, stepping back, because nothing good comes from remembering me. He left her there on the balcony, rain-soaked and confused, her heart doing things it had no business doing for a man who dealt in violence and shadows. On the fourth day, everything changed. Nia woke to find a message slipped under her bedroom door. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the paper and read the familiar handwriting. I know you're with him. We need to talk. Meet me at the cafe near Hongdae Station. Come alone. Please, Nia. I can explain everything. Yuri. Her heart raced as she read the words. Yuri. Her roommate, her friend, the girl who'd convinced her to go out that night. The girl who'd taken her to Club Azure. The girl who might have answers about why this was all happening. She found Joon-Ha in his office, surrounded by monitors showing security feeds from around Seoul. He looked up when she entered, and something in her face must have given her away because his expression darkened immediately. What happened? She held out the note. He read it quickly, his jaw tightening with each word. When he finished, he crumpled the paper in his fist. No, he said flatly. Absolutely not. She's my friend. She deserves a chance to explain. She's not your friend. His voice was hard as steel. Friends don't lead friends into traps. You don't know that she... Yes, I do. He stood, moving around the desk to face her. I've had people watching her since that night. Your roommate Yuri has been in contact with my uncle's men 3 times in the past week. Whatever explanation she has, it's one he told her to give you. The words felt like a betrayal cutting deeper than anything else. No, Yuri wouldn't. Wouldn't she? Joon-Ha's voice softened slightly. Think, Nia. Who suggested Club Azure? Who bought you drinks? Who left you alone on that dance floor right before someone slipped something into your glass? The memories came flooding back with brutal clarity. Yuri's insistence that they go out. The way she'd kept ordering drinks, encouraging Nia to let loose. The moment Yuri had excused herself to the bathroom, leaving Nia's drink unattended. The stranger who'd appeared moments later, offering to buy her another round. Oh God, Nia whispered, sinking into a chair. She set me up. She was paid to set you up. By my uncle. Joon-Ha crouched in front of her, his dark eyes searching her face. He wanted me distracted, wanted to test if I'd choose duty or emotion. You were never the target, Nia. You were the bait. For what? For this. He gestured between them. For exactly what's happening right now. Me, caring about whether you live or die. Him, having leverage over me. The weight of it crushed her chest. She'd been a pawn in a game she didn't even know she was playing. So what do? We finish the 7 days. Then you disappear, and my uncle loses his leverage. And Yuri? Something dark flickered across Joon-Ha's face. Yuri made her choice when she took his money. That night, Nia couldn't sleep. She lay in the guest bedroom, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment with Yuri. Every laugh they'd shared, every late-night conversation, every time Yuri had seemed like the sister she'd never had. All of it tainted now, poisoned by betrayal. Around midnight, she heard raised voices from downstairs. Joon-Ha's voice, sharp and angry, speaking rapid Korean. Then another voice, older and smoother, like oil sliding over steel. She crept to the top of the stairs, staying in the shadows, and peered down into the living room. Joon-Ha stood facing an older man in an expensive suit, gray hair slicked back, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Mr. Han. She's still here, Mr. Han said in English, clearly for Nia's benefit, even though he didn't know she was listening. I'm impressed, nephew. Usually you tire of your pets much faster. She's not a pet. She's under my protection. Protection? Mr. Han laughed. You've grown soft. Just like with Minji. We both know how that ended. Don't. Joon-Ha's voice was deadly quiet. Don't say her name. Why not? She was weak, just like this one. The African girl who thinks she can survive in our world. Mr. Han moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that still carried up the stairs. You know the curse, Joon-Ha. Every woman you love dies. It's not superstition. It's a promise. From me. The air left. Nia's lungs. It wasn't a curse. It was murder. Calculated, cold-blooded murder. Minji didn't die in an accident, Joon-Ha said, and Nia could hear the pain cracking through his controlled exterior. You killed her. I freed you from weakness, just as I'll free you from this one when the time comes. Mr. Han turned toward the door, then paused. 3 more days, nephew. Then the African girl goes back to her life, and you go back to being the heir I need you to be. Unless, of course, you'd like me to speed up the process. He left, and Joon-Ha stood there alone, his shoulders shaking with barely controlled rage. Nia wanted to go to him, to comfort him, but her legs wouldn't move. She was frozen, trapped between fear and something deeper she didn't want to name. The next morning, everything exploded. Nia woke to the sound of men shouting, followed by the shattering of glass coming from a lower floor of the building. She scrambled out of bed, her heart pounding, and ran into the hallway. Joon-Ha was already there, dressed in black tactical gear, a handgun holstered at his side. Stay in your room, he commanded. Lock the door. Don't come out until I come for you. What's happening? My uncle's moving early. He's done waiting. He lured me here by making a commotion at the company's storage floor below. He grabbed her shoulders, his grip firm but not painful. Listen to me, Nia. Whatever happens, you stay hidden. You understand? Joon-Ha. He kissed her, hard and desperate, like a man saying goodbye. When he pulled back, his eyes were fierce. You were never part of my plan, but you became the only thing I can't lose. Then he was gone, running toward the emergency stairwell, and Nia was alone. She didn't stay in her room. She couldn't. Instead, she crept through the penthouse, following the sounds of violence, until she reached the main living area. The room was empty, but through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see a helicopter approaching the rooftop pad, and on the rooftop landing, a handful of Mr. Han's men were waiting. Then she saw Yuri, standing near the elevator with Mr. Han, who looked impatient. Yuri! Nia shouted without thinking. Everything stopped. Heads turned. Mr. Han smiled. There she is. The bait finally shows herself. Joon-Ha's voice crackled through a discarded two-way radio on the coffee table. Nia, get out of there! But it was too late. 2 of Mr. Han's men rushed from the service entrance and grabbed her, yanking her arms behind her back. She struggled, screaming, kicking, but they were too strong. Let her go, Joon-Ha said over the radio, his voice deadly calm. This is between us. Leave her out of it. But that's where you're wrong, nephew. Mr. Han pulled out his own silenced handgun, pressing it to Nia's temple. She was never out of it. From the moment you saved her, you sealed her fate. He looked at Yuri. Tell him. Tell him the truth. Yuri's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Nia. I'm so sorry. He said he'd kill my family if I didn't help him. I didn't know he'd... Enough, Mr. Han snapped. Your apologies mean nothing. He spoke into a sleek earpiece. Joon-Ha, here's how this ends. You take over the Hanseong Group completely. No more hesitation. No more conscience. Or I put a bullet in her head right now, and you watch another woman you care about die because of your weakness. The room held its breath. Nia could hear the elevator doors opening just behind Mr. Han. Do it. Joon-Ha's voice came through the radio, quiet and steady, but laced with agony. Mr. Han blinked, surprised. What? Pull the trigger. Kill her. Joon-Ha's voice was steadier now. Because I'd rather she die quick and painless than live knowing I became the monster you want me to be. You're bluffing. Try me. That's when Joon-Ha burst from the elevator, not alone, but with 2 of his own trusted guards. He moved faster than thought, firing 2 shots that took out the men holding Nia. She dropped to the floor as a brief, controlled exchange of fire erupted, contained by silencers. Joon-Ha was already across the room, ripping her from Mr. Han's grip. "Run!" he shouted, pushing her toward the rear exit that led to the private stairwell. She ran, but she looked back just in time to see Mr. Han raise his gun, his eyes wide with surprise, aiming it at Joon-Ha's shoulder. The muzzle flashed. "No!" she screamed. Joon-Ha stumbled but didn't fall. He turned, returning fire, and Mr. Han went down. The penthouse was suddenly quiet, filled with the smell of smoke and ozone. Joon-Ha was already at her side, blood blooming across his shoulder. "You're shot," she gasped, touching the wound. "It's just a graze. Come on." He grabbed her hand, and together they ran. They made it to the secure private garage, into one of his fastest cars, and tore out onto Seoul's neon-lit streets. Sirens wailed, but far away, focused on the disturbance at the lower level. The city blurred past in streaks of light and shadow. "Where are we going?" Nia asked, pressing her hand against his wound to stop the bleeding. "Airport. I'm getting you out of Korea. What about you?" He didn't answer, and that was answer enough. They made it to a private airfield, some place Nia didn't recognize. Joon-Ha pulled the car to a stop near a small jet, its engines already running. "There's a ticket in the glove compartment," he said, his voice weak. "New identity, new passport, money to start over anywhere you want." "I'm not leaving you." "Yes, you are." He cupped her face with a bloody hand. "This is the only way you survive, Nia. My uncle is out of the picture, but his organization is not. They'll come for you to get to me. You are my weakness, and I need to cut you loose so I can deal with the aftermath." He kissed her one last time, a kiss that tasted of blood and finality. "Go, and don't look back." He pushed her out of the car, and his guard, waiting by the plane, rushed her up the steps. She, looked back through the jet window as they taxied away, watching Joon-Ha slump over the steering wheel, alone and bleeding in the darkness. She was safe, but she was heartbroken. The 7 days were up, and she was leaving with nothing but a broken heart, a terrifying new memory, and a permanent connection to a man she could never truly forget. Their 7 days ended in fire, but the memory of a first kiss and a sacrifice remains. What do you think is the true cost of protection? Share your thoughts with the first epic tales by Liam community below, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in their story.